This is Donna Sparza, independent distributor with GelMoment. Today I'm going to show you how to take care of your cuticles when you are in between manicures. So the first thing that you want to do is use either a long or a short file to shape your nail. Right now I have a little bit of almost what you would call a short coffin shape, and my goal is to just round the corners. So what I have found when you're actually filing your nail is you don't want to be harsh about it. You don't want to be really forceful and drag the file across your nail. If you do that, you don't have very much control over what shape that you end up with. So I find that I just barely set it on the nail and I just gently drag across. The way that my nails are shaped right now, they really don't need actual shaping or filing. They just need a little bit of smoothing out, and I just want to knock those corners off. Move these so we have a smoother background. So I just barely set it where that corner is and gently drag. Just a few times is all it takes. You can already see that it's starting to round. Just gently drag to get rid of that corner. There we go. You can see how it's starting to round as opposed to having a spot at the top that's straight across. Again, I'm not pressing hard at all with the file. I'm just dragging it across very gently, and you always want to stop and check. It's kind of like when you get your hair cut. You can always take more off, but you can't put it back on once you've removed it. I find that I like to have both of the sizes of nail files, the long one and the short one, just because they're good for different jobs. I like to use the big one in order to do long, gentle strokes, but you could just as easily use the mini file. Your strokes will just be shorter. So now I have the shape that I want, and what I do is I go back to each nail and I use a different nail to sweep under the nail, and you'll notice that you'll get tiny little bits when you do that. So I use the buffing side of our file to kind of get those off, and then I will go back over the tip the opposite direction, because sometimes I find when I file my nails it creates a bit of a ridge that you can feel at the tip of your nail. So again, you just sweep under the nail, knock those little bits off, and then I go back over the top of the nail just to smooth it out. Another thing that you might find is when you are sweeping under the nail, you might come to a spot where you feel like there's a little bit of a nick. Rather than using the file side, which is a pretty strong grit, just use the buffing side and buff it until you don't feel that nick anymore. It's nice and smooth. Finish up my thumbnail. And there you have the easy shaping. And I would look over, and if there's anything else that I want to fix, I would just repeat the process. Then when it comes time to do your cuticles, this part might be hard to focus on, but I'll do my best. We do have a Refine nail spa, which is a cuticle softener if you find that it's hard to push back your cuticles without slipping and accidentally pushing into the skin, which can be painful and can also cause some damage. One thing that I've recently learned is that What many people think is the cuticle is actually something called the eponychium. That's a fun word to say. Say it all together, eponychium. And that is the actual skin that is at the base of where the cuticle is. And when you push that back, you never ever want to trim that skin, because what it can do is it can cause it to callus, and it will only perpetuate the problem of having thick skin that you think is a cuticle that you have to push back. So you want to just gently push back that skin. Then, if there's anything left over, you can kind of see that there's a little bit of white residue right there. That is what cuticle is. And if you ever have a lot of that, that is what you can trim off. There, I was just able to use the cuticle pusher to push it off. I found that I really don't need to use the cuticle nippers because I don't usually have really big pieces of cuticle that flake off. What I have found is I can use the pointy end of the cuticle pusher, and I very, very gently kind of scrape along where the eponychium is, and that is enough to get the flaky cuticle part to come off of the nail, and then there's no trimming necessary. Again, you start by pushing the skin, which is the eponychium, down. I like to start higher up on the nail because sometimes you can have cuticle that grows up the sides of your nail. And you can see little flakes are coming off. That's the actual cuticle. I like to kind of use the corner to get down in there. Again, be very careful that you're not gouging into your nail and causing damage. It will take a long time for that to grow out. Then I switch to the pointy end and very gently scrape along, and the cuticle is what's flaking off. Sometimes I also use my other fingernail. I find your other fingernails are good tools to use to ensure that you're not actually damaging your nail. So this is a good example of how I've pushed the eponychium away, but you can see that white part right there, that is some cuticle that's not wanting to come off. So I'll use the Refine Cuticle Softener, and I'll just put a little bit right there, and I'll let that sit. Smells so good. While I work on the next nail. I found that the Refine is really good for toes. I think our cuticles on our toes can be a bit tougher to push back. All right, that nail also has some of the white residue. So I'll sweep some Refine on that. And then I'll work on my thumbnail. The more you keep your fingers manicured, not necessarily polished all the time, but the more you pay attention to the health of your nails and keeping your cuticles in check and not cutting away any of your actual skin, the faster it will be each time you give yourself a manicure, just because you're keeping on top of it. All right, now we'll come back to these. You can't even see the white residue anymore because the Refine has taken care of it. It's amazing how quickly it works to soften those cuticles and protect your nails from damage because you're not gouging and scraping into the nail bed. All right, so then what I would do is I would wash my hands if I used Refine. Okay, I have washed my hands now. Now that I have filed my nails, I've taken care of the cuticles. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a little bit of nail treatment with our Revitalize, which is a combination of various oils and water for moisture and also to give a good hit of nutrients to the nail bed. So all you have to do with this is sweep it over the nail and it will absorb pretty quickly. And this helps to create some microcirculation in your nail bed for stronger, healthier nails as they grow. You can do 1 or 2 coats of this. You don't put it over polish. You put it on bare nails. I do like to put it at my cuticles when I have polish on my nails, just to give it a bit of extra nutrients. Once that has soaked in, you can use our moisturizing nail oil if you have dry nails to infuse the nail bed with moisture. The more your nails are kept moisturized, the stronger they will be. If you think about it, it's kind of like bricks and mortar. If you have a bunch of bricks and there's no mortar, it's easy to separate the bricks with peeling of your nail or push the bricks over, which would be breakage of the nail. But if you fill those little nooks and crannies with moisture or mortar with bricks, then your nails are going to be able to be stronger and therefore healthier and grow longer. The last thing I like to do is use Plume, which is my most favorite hand lotion ever. They call it the Featherlight hand lotion, and it does go on very lightly without feeling greasy, and it absorbs quickly and lasts for a while. So I like to put that on my fingers on the insides first, and then I use my hand to just go over the tops of my hands. I don't necessarily put it all over my fingernails because we just put all that moisture on the fingernails. And then what I do is I either, depending on how much time I have, just let the oil sit and soak into my nails, or if I need to be on the move, I will just use my other hand to massage that nail oil into the nail bed. And there you have it. That is how we take care of bare nails.